For example, one time, I told the story, at the beginning, Kirtanananda was like the leader. You know, so they were developing one place one time. I think it was Montreal or something. And they were making gulabjams. Which the devotees in the beginning to make gulabjams was like, it was like building a 747 airplane or something. Yeah. So the rule was that all the devotees living in the temple could have one gulabjam, and the guests could have up to 3. Yeah. So Hansabuddha told us that it was a big kirtan going on. He had a nice program. And then at the end of the feast, and Prabhupada was there, he told Kirtanananda, I want a second gulabjam. And Kirtanananda said, no, you can't. She said, look, I'm going to go over there to Prabhupada, and I'm going to ask Prabhupada if I can have a second gulabjam, and Prabhupada will say yes. So he walked over where Prabhupada was sitting, Kirtananda's watching, and he asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, would you like some kirtan? And Prabhupada said yes. And so Kirtananda saw Prabhupada going like this. So Triya Rishi said, of all my GBC godbrothers, Hansabuddha was probably the most intelligent. He said, but it's not his intelligence I worry about, it's morality. Because he would do so many things. Working with him was, So that's parampara, no? We have to know Prabhupada. There's so many ways to know him, through his books, through the devotees, everything else. So you can really know him better than you know anybody else. And in Prabhupada, you see, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. It's like a compound microscope or a compound telescope. The first lens focuses on the second lens, which focuses on the third lens. And so that's what we're seeing. Prabhupada, very the same thing. I know everything I know comes from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And he's focusing on Gaurkishore Babaji. Yeah. And so gradually we begin to know all these people. And when you're singing the songs of Narottam, you actually, what Narottam was thinking, it starts to become revealed. If it's not being revealed, you're not really in the parampara. So, when Prabhupada was in Berkeley, California, which is in the San Francisco Metroplex there, with big university campuses there. The first University of California campus is in Berkeley. It's right across the bay from San Francisco. But anyway, Prabhupada was there. He came 1975. He came for the first Rath Yatra. We were just inaugurating a new building. And I heard from his lips. Now you can hear from my lips. Yeah. Prabhupada said, anybody who chants Hare Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda, and follows it with Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare, has achieved the perfection of life. But if you want to preach, you should probably read my books. There we go. I mean, the sutra, no? Yeah. There's perspective. That's our movement. We're trying to acquire knowledge, right? Education, vidya vadu jivanam. Sankirtan. That's the way to acquire vidya. In this life is vidya by Harinam. And then books, they fit in. But this is not the age of jnana. This is not the age of karma. It's not the age of jnana. It's not the age of dhyana. It's the age of sankirtan. When you're trying to sell somebody a book, you meet somebody, they're kind of thinking a book is for learning, for education. They're thinking, I don't know, yoga. If you say, well, hey, why don't you, it's Christmas time, why don't you take a few for your friends as gifts? Their bhava has changed. Now it's not for me to learn, now it's for me to give to somebody else. So now they're in the mood of a sankirtan. Right away they start thinking, well, they start analyzing and giving it away. And that'd be good, that'd be nice for people. So this is the the age of Sankirtan, preaching. So the basis is Harinam, chanting, like that. And the books, they have to be in proportion, proper proportion. Also, Hansa Buddha said, he was traveling with Prabhupada one time, and Prabhupada asked him, why do you think I wrote so many books? He said, well, good philosophy, all this kind of stuff, the content. And then Prabhupada said, no, I wrote all these books to convince you to chant Hare Krishna. If you're convinced to chant Hare Krishna, you don't have to read these books. He said at that point he realized he was not convinced, to chant, to everything like that and so on. Yeah. So that's the conclusion. Of course, if you're chanting, then of course you naturally want to read the books, but now you're reading them with this particular motivation, everything else, and so on. So, we were coming into Iskcon somehow or other. 1974 was a real circus. We can describe some of the adventures there. But then you come in contact. Actually, my first contact with Prabhupada, I got a Back to Godhead magazine. Devotees were chanting in San Francisco, and they got a quarter out of me, and I bought a magazine. I looked at it a little bit. In the back was this picture of Prabhupada sitting with all these flowers around him, And to me, it looked kind of like some kind of mafia. The picture that Prabhupada liked, the picture that Prabhupada liked, for public distribution, is the one if he's sitting kind of on the grass like that. There's one picture of Prabhupada sitting on some grass or something with his bead bag and stuff. And he said he wanted that to be like, it's the picture that people would identify with. Oh, this is Swami E.C. Bhaktivedanta. Other pictures, but that was the one. But the other one, to me, my reaction was this, because there's so many bogus gurus at that time. I didn't know Prabhupada. My first reaction was kind of like that. But then later on, Buddhimanta, one devotee, who was in, sold me the Krishna book at the University of California. Was there. That was the big one, the really big one like that. And so he was preaching to me in brown tri clothes. And finally, I had to make a decision. My wife didn't want me to buy it. Wasting money on these yoga books, and she was sitting there glaring at me. If you buy that, when we get home, I'll make you like hell. So I really had to make this choice between satisfying Maya or doing what I thought was right. And so finally, I made the choice. Okay, I'll buy the book. So I bought the Krishna book. Then I took it home and started to read it. What it was. And the first story was the story of the Shantaka jewel. Okay. Now it says this took place after the previous story of Pradyumna. That was the first story in the book. And I just couldn't figure this out. I was actually looking to see if there was something like this. One chapter got stuck in there or something. So finally I noticed in the back, and Buddhimanta had sold me volume 2 of the Krishna. So then I finally went to the library and found volume 1. But it was a very, and one thing too, it was the same as here. It was 13.5 point type. Printing sizes, like that. I think anything above 11 point, you start seeing every word. Every word starts to stand out. Below 11 point and below 11.5, you don't see the words. You're just reading. There's a whole, typesetting and book formatting is a whole subtle science like that. So 13, my Prabhupada wanted it 13.5 points. And I noticed what I was doing before I met devotees, I would read it, and I would go back again, and I would get it, and so I got the entire sentences like an icon. Like I would get the whole thing and meditate on it. So that big, it was very, very much a meditation experience. And then I read a lot of science fiction stuff. I was the highest philosophy, also Christianity and stuff. But it was just in science fiction, they were getting into very speculative things about who we are, what is the universe, and stuff like that. So it was like very fantastic things and stories and all this, And the Krishna book, when I was reading it, I was impressed that Prabhupada was presenting monotheism in such a very intelligent, logical fashion. He would go along with the stories and present together different ideas, pantheism, yoga, mysticism. But he was going on basically saying that, there's a God, he's a person, he's the cause of everything. And it was such a very, very clear, rational presentation like that, and very satisfying. But then he was also talking about, Jarasandha attacks Mathura, and Krishna chopping heads off, and there's blood everywhere, and dead horses looked like elephants, and the arms looked like seaweed. It was just like unbelievable, stories, And he was presenting these as actual facts. This guy is totally rational on one side, and the other side he's presenting these things, which are more outrageous than any science fiction book I ever read. So at one point, my mind said, this is either the biggest lie I've ever read, or it's the absolute truth, right? Yeah. It's either the biggest lie I've read or the absolute truth. My mind came to that conclusion. And my intelligence said to my mind, either it's an absolute lie or it's the absolute truth. Either case, it's absolute. I realized it was fact. The Krishna book is self-evident. It is Krishna. When you're reading it, you realize this is not anything like I know. It's just, it's an absolute lie or the absolute truth. It's absolute. Some of my in contact with Prabhupada's books, the Krishna book. Then after that, what else happened? Then so many books, everything else. So my paternal grandfather is from Austria. Anybody here from Austria or Germany? Any ancestors? Everybody from Argentina is an immigrant, right?
France.
Unless you're 2 meters tall. Yeah. So my parents came. So I had this very German mentality. Everything should be organized, that kind of stuff. There's reasons that way. The United States of America is, some big sociologists, they say, it's predominated by Northern German consciousness. So you see, the United States is very much into manipulating metal, and everything is very German and like that and so on. So they have this very kind of view, which they then spread all over the place. Everybody else, is following them to some degree. So anyway, when I was reading Prabhupada's books, I wanted to have them all organized and understand them. I started with the first 2 cantos, and I discovered they're very systematic. There's actually a very systematic structure there, and I could identify sections and stuff. And Prabhupada even says, he says, we can note with profit that Sukadeva Goswami has been discussing. So he puts in these analytical things like that, but doesn't emphasize it. For a German, obviously, I understand. So eventually then, in our whole process here, we finally did a presentation called the Bhaktivedanta Library. We're doing Science in the Vedas, Interfaith Dialogue, Bhaktivedanta Library, and World Classical Literature. Those are areas where we've focused. It's very nice. If you do World Classical Literature, you can look at different things. Hamlet and Arjuna has been a tremendous success. The biggest scholars in the world have appreciated, so we've presented it so many times, and it's just very intense. So the Bhaktivedanta Library, the whole PowerPoint show, everything else. So in the beginning we have Vedas, and the Vedas include everything known to man, Vastu Veda, Ayurveda, Gandharva Veda, Nanda Veda, okay. So do we have anything from Prabhupada which is Shruti? Is there anything in the Bhaktivedanta Library which is Shruti? We got from Prabhupada. Isopanishad is the only thing we have. Everything else is Shruti. And I think Prabhupada did that for that reason. Anybody complains, there's the Isopanishad, which is one of the principal, was it 10 principal Upanishads? Very prominent. And very clear. Verse number 15 is terrible. Is it Ramayana and Patre now? They don't like it. My audience. Okay, so then we have Isopanishad, Bhaktivedanta Library. Then we go up to the Gita Upanishad. This leads right into the heart of the Bhaktivedanta library, which is Srimad Bhagavata, the heart there. Then we have Chaitanya Charitamrita as a study. And Lord Chaitanya is showing us how to understand, how to appreciate Srimad Bhagavatam. So Chaitanya Charitamrita is a study guide. Lord Chaitanya said, you can only understand Srimad Bhagavatam when you become a madman like me. There are many madmen who try to become madmen like Lord Chaitanya. So yeah, it makes sense. Then we see there's the Bhaktivedanta library. Then we have the Krishna book, which is 10th canto. We have Light of the Bhagavat, which is chapter 30. It's chapter 30 of the 10th canto. What else do we have? In Spanish, there's a life and the life and teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That's enseñanzas. Yeah, and that's just the introduction like that. So, and then we have Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is an extract of everything, from the most simple thing to the most advanced. And Upadesamrita then is like a little summary of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So all you see, all the books, how they fit together then, they're all connected. And yeah, this Srimad Bhagavatam is the heart. Prabhupada was not going to print Chaitanya Charitamrita. He wasn't going to translate it in this lifetime without some. The devotees were pushing, so he pushed back. He said, okay, if you do this, you do that, you do this. And Rameshwar was saying, Prabhupada, it's just impossible to do that. And Prabhupada said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. So, this is what happens when you push the guru. They were going crazy to keep up with Prabhupada. So, and these were like people who've been like, Bengali scholars for 3 months or something, trying to get the word-by-word translations. And so then, of course, there were many things that had to be retranslated and stuff. In the West, you invite people, you're having Maha Guru Puj. Puj means mucus, right? Yeah. It's like, come to our Maha Guru Puj. Puja. Maha Guru Puj. Yeah, so there are many. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the word-by-word meanings had to be, I think, what do you meant correct again. So then it's all very, very organized, very systematic. And then, of course, there's 35 volumes of room conversations, I think. Maybe 10 volumes of Bhagavad Gita lectures, 7 volumes of so many other things. We mentioned we've done this several times, lecture the Bhaktivedanta library. And so in the United States, everybody has, many devotees have all the books. They don't read them, but they have them. So when you're making the presentation, you're talking about it, you can put the books there in front of you. And in the end, they're all there. It's very impressive. And so then there was one new person coming, kind of a young person. The first time he was coming to this program, and I did this in somebody's home. And I said, and some people say, Prabhupada didn't give you everything. And this guy said, thank God. So I mean, of course, you try to read, you want to understand everything, you read everything. I was dying. Then I've heard Prabhupada say, in 100 years, you cannot read all these books thoroughly. So yeah, so Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta, these are an overview. 11738. Right? 11738. Prabhupada says that all girls should be married by 16, and all guys should be married by 25. Okay? Or else take sannyas. This is the verse where Prabhupada gives us things about if we rule the world. Okay, so by basically an ideal situation, every guy should either make your choice, either take sannyas or get married at 25 years old. Because later it's not good. Everything's, you have to raise your children and everything else. If you're growing up in Vedic culture by 25 years old, you got to figure it out. Yeah, No, okay, I can healthy, happy sannyas. Or somebody else, no, I should get married. Devotee cardamom. So that means that if you're going to get married or take sannyas, that by 25 years old, you should have finished Bhakti Bhagavata. Bhakti Bhagavata, all the sannyas you should have. Okay, well, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? Yeah, so what we're doing Bhakti Bhagavata, but this is like, I was saying, an overview. You go through the first 6 cantos, look at everything else, and you realize, oh, there's so much more here, I want to come back and focus on this story. Well, I want to come back and focus. First time through it, was it Gopal Bhatta Goswami was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam? That was his service. He would do it again and again, again and again. Now, what's the name of it?
Raghunath Bhatta Goswami would recite it.
Okay, yeah. And then Vrindavan Das Thakur, he said, my only desire is to study Srimad Bhagavatam life after life. We learned Nityananda as my teacher. Yeah, so we can go on again and again. This is so subtle. Professor Ravi Gupta, Radhika Raman Das, disciple there, he's saying that the Sanskrit is just so subtle. As you just, for example, you gave the example that 4 Kumaras want to go into Vaikuntha. Vijay and Vijay say, oh, you're too young, you can't go into Vaikuntha, you're too small, whatever. So then they start chastising them, and they're saying, you're seeing dualities and, different consciousness and friends and enemies, like that. They said it doesn't come out in the purport of the translation. They said all the words they're using refer to the family. Their humor is not just that you're seeing it amongst devotees or something, but you're seeing these dualities and different interests in the family. The family people are engaging in conspiracy like that and so on. So it's so rich and it's so subtle. So Bhakti Bhagavata, I think you teach it that way. I'm just kind of your visualize. You do the diplomas here, right? You're doing Bhakti Shastri, right?
Bhakti Bhagavata, Bhakti Vedanta.
Okay, Bhakti Sarvabhauma. Okay. Yeah. I was on the executive committee of the Ministry of Education of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Then I resigned, but I was working with Atul Krishna for the certification thing and everything else. So one time we all met in Pune about how to evaluate and everything else, and we came to the conclusion. What is the standard for the different diplomas? At Bhakti Shastri, you should be able to defend yourself from philosophical deviations. You got your Bhakti Shastri degree, okay. Bhakti Vaibhava, you should be able to defend other people from philosophical deviations. Bhakti Vedanta, you should be able to defeat philosophical deviations. And Bhakti Sarvabhauma, you should be able to start your own philosophical deviation. But it is. It's the whole thing about developing education, developing academic education in Iskcon is a gigantic challenge. Building the glory of India in Delhi was a challenge, but it's just as big, even bigger, trying to develop an educational institution. Educational institution is not just a building. In fact, that's maybe one of the smallest aspects of it. It's necessary. The thing is building the community, the professors, the mission statement, the ideas, everything else. I was going around the Bhaktivedanta Institute with PhD devotees, and we were visiting PhD people for the preaching purposes. Radha Das, he would come and get a PhD in, I think it was neuroembryology or something. So that every time we go see the big professors, and they would say, oh, where did you do your PhD? They always ask that. There's a big difference if you did it at Oxford or Yale University or something, or did something the Bhaktivedanta Vidyalaya. Oh, okay. So the university has a certain reputation about how they're teaching the same diplomas and so on. Which are you in competition with the Vidyapits?
No.
No, we're not in competition. We're not. Everybody's coming from there. I know in the beginning there was the BIHE,
Yeah.
And some of them left and went to Mayapur, and it was the MIHE, right? Yeah. Then they, we're the Mayapur Institute. So, and this is healthy when it's done properly. Radharani and Chandramali are competing, but it's for a healthy purpose, and it makes them closer and so on. So yeah, there should be, that our diplomas are very respected. But everybody will have their own character.
Unique.
The Bhaktivedanta Institute, Rajahamsa, Rantaraj, Rasaraj, Bhakti-Sudama, Maharaj, almost all of them were chemists, almost all chemists. They didn't have a cookbook, they had a formula book, a formula for halava. And when they would make the halava, they would have a scale. They would talk about it, I think a little more of the sugar and this and stuff. So they had this, whole scientific view. But the cooking was good, but it was a little bit more like precision rather than flavor. So anyway, the Bhaktivedanta library, you see, all the Prabhupada's books are organized, and we go through them. If we go through Bhakti Sarvabhauma, we've gone through most of them like that, organized, and then you can begin to understand. For example, if you're going to be involved with the scientific preaching, which part of the Bhagavatam should you know very well? If you're going to be preaching to the scientists, to the physicists. Prabhupada said, the preaching to the physicists, we shall use one section of the Bhagavatam.
Third canto.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Third canto or fifth canto.
Third canto. He said specifically in the teachings of Lord Kapila. Bhakti Sudama Maharaj wrote a whole curriculum for a university in Berkeley. He sent it to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada approved it. And it was different than Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, but yes, it is also good. But he made two comments. He said, preaching to the scientists, we shall focus on the instructions of Lord Kapila. And for political science, we shall focus on you can go ahead and guess, it's okay.
MCQ?
Huh?
Multiple choice.
The speeches of Maharaj Prithu Maharaj's speeches, yeah. And Prabhupada says that, he says his speeches are considered for political science, the essence of these things like that and so on. So different sections. Okay, if you're going to be preaching social philosophy, political science, history, what section, what in the first canto, is there any good explanation of Varnashram Dharma in the first canto? Something, maybe a booklet, maybe like 4 pages. Is there like maybe a 2, 3, 4 page booklet you can extract from the first canto? On Varnashram?
Vishnu Dev section.
Huh? The teachings of Vishnu Dev.
Yes. Yeah, the instructions of Vishnu Dev. Vishnu Dev is considered by Vedic possibly the greatest authority on Varnashram, because he synthesizes everybody else's knowledge and so on. Those 2 purports in there by Prabhupada, it's incredible. He extracts on all of Vishnu Dev's instructions in 2 purports, and every sentence is like, it's like a, sutra for dealing with different situations. For example, in the beginning, we had great problems with our Gurukulas. The Gurukulas had a lot of problems in the beginning. And there's one sentence in there where Prabhupada says, Brahmachari ashram is for training the detached and attached. Yeah. And so we were assuming that every single kid who was born in Iskcon was going to become a sannyasi. So all the education was completely for that perspective, and many of them were not. There's several of them were demons. Demons who took birth. Yeah. And so they were so frustrated, so unhappy, these children, and then they were, this was a horrible mess in the beginning. But you realize, some of these kids are becoming attached and different things. Okay, so we need to train them. Okay, my son is a demon. Okay, what education do I give him? Okay, I teach him to become a lawyer. We can be civilized. control demon. This is what devotees can do. They see, devotees, so many people comment that we like your philosophy, but we like especially as you're able to take these different academic people and put us together in a way that is stimulating. Yeah. So if you begin to know the Bhagavatam and you have your service, one time I was teaching in the Mayapur Institute for Bhakti Bhagavata. A Russian lady, she was doing the Bhakti Bhagavata. I don't know if she ever finished it or not. She was doing street armor, right, in the Bhagavatam like that. There's so much, and she was just extracting it out and collecting it and so on. And I think you're going to get, if you do this on street armor, you're going to get like 2 volumes this size. You do Chaitanya Charitamrita and Prabhupada's books. Yeah. And it's very necessary, very nice, very necessary. And of course, there's some redundancy. You have to go through and use your intelligence. Okay, that's already been mentioned so many times. I don't have to mention that again. And this has to be referenced. And it's just such a wonderful book, coming out. It needs to be done. Is feminism a powerful movement in the modern world?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yes.
Is there a feminist movement in India? Do girls still dress the same way they did 25 years ago? No. Yeah. It's a very, very powerful movement. And Prabhupada predicts it. He directly predicts it in the first canto. Because women, children, old men will be unprotected. Therefore, women, to protect themselves, will declare themselves independent of men and form their own, own organizations and so on. It's right there. It's predicted. We expect this. It's going to happen.
It is in Iskcon.
Yeah. Huh?
It's in Iskcon. It's in
Iskcon.
Iskcon also.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we have to deal with it properly. And so it's like Paramahansa Muni, Vishnudev recommends the Brahmanas should know Manu Samhita and Parasura's Dharma Shastra in that section of the Bhagavatam. So I went to the University of California Library in Berkeley, 1 million books, and tried to find Parasura's Dharma Shastra. And they kept coming back, but it was always in Hindi. So I asked the librarian for help, and she had another one. So finally, there were 5 librarians. It was like, this is like, it was an adventure for them. They were all looking, and finally one of them was screaming, "I got it!" And it was an old wooden car catalog. It wasn't even on electric catalogs. And there was one copy in the law library. So I went across to the main library, to the law library. It was in the second basement. That's one shelf on
Popular book.
Hindu law. It's one bookcase on Hindu law, and I go along and I pull it out. And there's Parasura Dharma Shastra, 1896, Asiatic Society translation. And as soon as I did that, it was all cement. The door opened in the cement wall, and this kind of professor guy came out and was locking it up and looked at me, and he said, "Oh, you read Sanskrit?" And I said, "A little." He said, "So do I." It was very interesting. It was because Parasura writes for the Kali Yuga. Manu Samhita is more like for what, Dwarpara Yuga? It's very strict. But Parasura is still writing for Kali Yuga and what's happening in Kali Yuga. So in the beginning, he says, maidens, unmarried girls are becoming mothers. Kings, rogues are conquering kings, and women are conquering men. This is invariably what happens in the last age, the Kali Yuga. Married girls are becoming mothers, and thieves and rascals are conquering the government, and women conquer men. This is what we expect. So people are supporting this. Some places, the most intense, strong feminist place in the world that I know of is Chile. Named Santiago. You don't go to Chile. When they're out defending their feminist program, they'll come out with motorcycle helmets with baseball bats. Some of them. On the other side, the intellectuals are there, like Simone de Beauvoir and stuff. They're like totally intellectual, defending feminism and all this kind of stuff. And a big, very powerful movement. And so then we have to, but so our point is, yeah, this is, we tell them, we accept this, no problem. We accept what you're doing. We understand that you have a good reason for doing it. Because you look at, in the United States, the statistic is 70% of the first, marriages, which includes people where people are not formally married, but they commit themselves to a lifelong relationship. 70% of first marriages end in divorce in the United States. In India, what is a divorce in India now? Yeah, the last 25 years, gone up a lot. 5%, 10%, 15, 20, 1 in 5. Probably not that many, is it? Yeah, but I remember before, maybe 25 years ago, okay.
1.1 pets.
Huh?
People say 1.1 pets.
Oh, in India. Okay. I have something here. If you have been personally divorced, or anybody within one family relationship, father, mother, brothers, or sisters, or children have been divorced, raise your hand. Okay, 3 people. United States, that relationship is India. Yeah. Before, when I would go to programs, all Indian ladies and everything else, even this was in Peru one time, and I asked, Gita Ashram, how many of you had arranged marriages? Like, well, all of us. It was just so common. But in India, I think even that's probably even less now. So yeah, it's everywhere, but different countries, it's more influence. So if you're going to be in Chile, Santiago, you have to be able to deal with this. Do we accept polygamy?
Sort
No, we don't accept polygamy.
Yes.
We,
With some conditions.
Yeah.
With some conditions.
Do we accept polyandry?
No.
Do you know what polyandry is? Polygamy, polyandry. Why not? If guys have the right to marry women, why can't a woman have the right to marry several men?
Exceptionally.
You're a chauvinist.
They'll eventually kill each other.
So somebody asked me that in a very nice fashion in Peru, in a very nice fashion, when tourist girl, she said, "Why do you accept polygamy if you also accept polygamy?" And I didn't know what to say. Okay. I'll tell you the answer. It's in the story of the Prachetas. The Prachetas married.
one.
Yeah, the daughter of Pramochan. That's polyandry. And the purport says natural feminine psychology, because you got a subtle body and a gross body. And the subtle feminine body says natural feminine psychology is to be attached to one man. The little girl is attached to her daddy. Were you attached to your daddy? My other little girls come, my daddy. That's why the world exists, very nicely. So yeah, as a girl, she's attached to her daddy, love and hate. And as a young woman, she's attached to her husband. And as older, she's attached to her grown-up boys, my boys. It's very natural. This is it's the way the world works. Gravity works. Okay. Well, it says, therefore, it's very difficult for a woman to give equal affection to more than one husband. Draupadi was a very qualified girl. Was she able to give equal affection to all the husbands?
No. Yes.
No.
Or was she really giving her affection and love to one of them?
So now
And that's why she fell down on the way back to Vaikuntha. Even Draupadi couldn't do it. Draupadi was not going to marry 5 guys. Our mother, whatever we accept as law, whatever our mother says, we should marry all of us. She said, I don't care what your mother says. And then Yudhishthira said, adharma can't stay in my mind. It doesn't seem like adharmic. And then they gave the example of the Prachetas. And then Draupadi, okay, all right. She was inclined anyway. That's not okay. But of course, it was a very in a very simple type, supernatural type arrangement and so on. So these are very practical things. Prabhupada says in the beginning, they will laugh at you. Hare Krishna, said, and after that, they will try and stop you and destroy you. Honestly speaking, all over the world now, we've come to the third stage, which is everybody will accept you. I mean, the people are accepting us now. They want to hear from us. They want to know what we have to say. We've survived being laughed at. We've survived being trying to be destroyed. I give so many examples. My own life, everywhere, people are saying, "Oh, Hare Krishna." Oh, I have a friend. Can I talk to you? Yeah. And it's happening on a more professional basis, where somebody is like an architect or something and is working on some project with many other architects. I'm a Mormon. You're Hare Krishna. Like Iskcon. This is tough. So then gradually their professional dealings and stuff, they start like talking. So our culture has come to that point. So what are the challenges now? Yeah, when people try to kill you, you've got one challenge. It's just to survive, right? And become very expert at clandestine preaching, right? Get the message out. And then, but what are the challenges? What are the challenges when you become successful?
We have to know the philosophy.
You got to know what, if people are asking you, well, what's your idea? Well, I don't really know. Yeah. So now then, our education based upon books becomes very, very important. Very important like that and so on. Because people are trying to ask questions. But usually they're going to ask questions from a professional perspective. Somebody's interested in sociology, somebody else is interested in, you guys don't believe in evolution? Well, why not? Yeah. And then you have to be able to explain it. And a nice and intelligent person, they'll say, I didn't think about that before. I think about that. Yeah. You got any books? Yeah. So, and another thing is Abraham Lincoln. How many people know Abraham Lincoln? Famous guy. Yeah. He said, many men can survive and sort of survive adversity, poverty, political turmoil, all these problems. Many people can go through that and show their strength of character. They said, if you really want to test somebody's character, give them money and power. Are we getting that? Yeah. So now we're going to see, Renders Group said, Prabhupada said, in the future we will direct armies and navies and nations and everything else. You just go on. This movement will spread like that. And Renders Group said he was frightened. He said, my God, with Prabhupada, so many people have become horrible when they got this. How do we keep from becoming corrupted? And he said, Prabhupada thought for a moment. He said, if you just chant 16 nice rounds and follow the 4 principles strictly, as I've instructed you, you will not become corrupt. And Ravindra Guru said, he still had some doubts. He said, is that enough? And Prabhupada said, yes. Yeah. But how many people here struggle to chant 16 nice rounds a day? Don't struggle? Every day. Yeah. And it's, and then the 4 principles, okay, there's, different people are agitated in different ways in terms of the 4 principles. When I was in Bengal, one year, it was the hottest summer in 35 years. And in the West, people drink alcohol, But in Bengal, in the summer, you can't, the alcohol would just kill you. They're taking globulins and rasagulas and these kind of things, but that makes you so intoxicated. One rasagula and something in Bengal. Subhan Maharaj said, Bengali weddings, they have Bengali milk sweets, but he said they also have, what is it? Green halwa? Something was green rasagulas or something, because it had a little marijuana in it. So you don't take the green rasagulas a little bit. Yeah. So, different levels of intoxication. So this is in the whole perspective on studying, reading, how it's becoming very practical. And I encourage you to have a very potent, program here. So I don't know what's a clock there. Okay. So, white brush. Well, here we go. Sometimes they say that they tremble. White brush. This is what Bhagavata says on the Brajmana Parikrama. Lokanan Maharaj says Brajmana Parikrama. People come back, some go to the ashram, some go to the hospital. It's just, but after the morning program, Bhagavad gets up and he goes to, okay, today the trucks can't reach where we have to stop, so today we have to march twice as far. It's Baba's Adhikadasi. And the road is, the pavement is paved with glass. Any questions?
Maharaj,
Yes. Akrishna.
your humble servant Sri Kesava Das. Sri Kesava Das. Kesava. Om Kesavaya.
Yes, Kesava. Okay, nice. Okay.
Maharaj, just want to know the meaning of your name.
He wants to know the meaning of my name. I wanted to know the meaning of my name. Like about 2 years, nobody. Bahusaka, some people were speculating that Parishaka was like from Bahusaka or something, Finally, Bhakti Shri Maharaj visited Berkeley and he said, oh, it means like an Indian letter. It used to have Parishak Kaname. Once it folded up, it placed to write the name of the sender, Parishak Kaname. So it means somebody who sends a servant, especially a messenger. So Hanumat is a name for Ramchandra. He's he who sent Hanuman Prashmak. And when I was initiated, it was by letter, Prabhupada was in Bombay. Another devotee was named Lanka Vijaya, and it was Sakrit. So I think that, what's his name? What's his name now? Anyway, he was done. Yeah. Name Prajuna. He was just taking the names from that time from the Vishnu, Rama, Sahasranam or something, so it came out that way, maybe. But it fits, I feel very happy, like, but that's what it means. There's probably not two Hanuman Parishak, for all of Iskcon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's not, like, almost all gurus name their medical doctor disciples Murari Gupta. It's so common. It's a medical doctor to get this name Murari Gupta. It's like so many Murari. And sometimes you have Murari Gupta, a doctor, I'm a doctor. That's so many. Yes, sir.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much for your wonderful. I have a question that especially to a postmodern mind, they have this, in our preaching, often we are advised that to a postmodern mind,
Postmodern minds.
yeah,
Okay.
they don't want to hear authority being quoted.
Yeah.
So, we are told that we should involve some kind of experiential approach to inspire people to take. On other hand, the sampradaya we come from, we talk about the authority and the Shabda Praman.
Mhm.
So how do we, as we are progressing, how do we understand the presentation? Because we have to maintain that authority. Based on that,
Yes.
inspire people, right?
This book includes everything. Number 10. Karmibhya parito hare priyataya vyaktim jajurganimas. And then Srupa Goswami is starting with karmis, jnanis, vimukti jnanis, bhaktas, sadhana bhaktas, vaidhi bhaktas, prema bhaktas, loka bhaktas, bhakti bhaktas. And Prabhupada expands it to be karmis. So yeah, that's everybody. So that's the devotee, you can understand. The Hansabuddha said, the Prabhupada said, Every single psychological circumstance you can encounter is in Srimad Bhagavatam. Pregnancy of Diti in the evening, Daksha Yagna, Ajamil. Yeah, there's this, if you take it to heart, wherever you meet, you say, oh yeah, this guy's in this kind of consciousness, and that's the Baba, that's how we should approach them. You know, yeah. You see, Prabhupada, he would relate to different people. Sometimes he would give prasad. You know, and that you can understand this person can appreciate prasad. You know? So one place, I think maybe it's when Lord Chaitanya is dealing with the Buddhist who gave him the bad prasad, maybe it's there. And Prabhupada said they've been so effective in spreading their philosophy all over the world. And their epistemology is that the absolute truth is established by reason and argument. They don't even accept empiricism. The scientists are rational empiricists. Direct perceptions, what's that called? Prachaksha and Anumana, is their percent. But the Buddhists are just simply, little speculation. Yeah. So Prabhupada said, therefore devotees should become expert at being able to present, philosophy in terms of reason and argument. Yeah. Yeah. And then other people then, like you're saying, that because the most prominent philosophy is still scientific materialism. That's the pervasive basic idea. Kamal Krishna Maharaj told me, very intense, he said, I was asking him, should I get involved with the Bhaktivedanta Institute? Because I already had gone through science. He said, Prabhupada said over and over again for his entire last year, scientific preaching is my number one preaching program. Yeah, because that's the predominant, it's behind everything. You may not see it. Their epistemology is rational empiricism, direct perception, and then using mathematics, and then to expand that to arrive at other truths. Probably said they explained a lot of things through that. This is not like they haven't done many good things. With other people, then, and I think, the postmodern age, I would say that they're scientifically based. They're not going to accept, they'll accept also, like you say, experiential things and also logic.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Seven Pranam. And Prabhupada wrote so many books. So out of so many books, you carried an act of instruction. You always carry with you. Prabhupada wrote so many books.
Yeah.
Out of so many books, you carry personally yourself, carry an act of instruction as you worship at duty.
Oh, more or less, yeah.
Always, and since 40 years, more than I don't know exact years. So, what is realization of having that book as well? Why did you choose this book only?
Well, if you buy our book, have a bunch of yeah. He's taking orders right now. But it is, this is okay.
I asked you similar question previously also, but you just answered, oh, one may have any book, I kept just this book. What is it?
Part of it is because I have very, very heavy sannyas karma. Krishnamurti astrologer said you have he said you can have $10 in your pocket your whole life. But with inflation now it's like $35 or something. It's just, I have very, very few things. And of course this is very nice. It's just you can carry it with you and then always have. And at different times, I've run across a situation where there was just one moment to give somebody, one boy was just taking off, going all across America, experiencing things. He met me at the train station. His train was just going out, and I was running. I actually gave him the book. like that. And so it's always nice to have one of Prabhupada's books with you, and for studying, reading, everything else. And this is very small, and it is. Other books, small books, are sometimes specialized for certain areas like this. And this is, covers all the philosophy.
So, because I ask, because this carries from beginning to just beginning by this stage to almost highest stage. That is a sutra form, is that?
Yeah.
But because you are having, you read, you always carry, you always cherish. So certainly, what we read, what anyone else read, one time to time, that reading and what your realization will be different.
Yeah.
So literally, so if you can share with your experience, very nice.
My experience.
You are realizing.
Realization of this.
On the nectar of.
No, that's exactly, because I wanted to do that also. Yeah. Nitai Gauradas, our close associate in Iskcon, he's director of geriatric psychiatry at a big hospital in the United States. Okay, yeah. And so he's I'm dealing with old people, Alzheimer's disease, yeah, and other people there too. So it's a geriatric psychiatry hospital. So and other things too. It's a psychiatric hospital. So these people come in, they stay for 1 week, 2 weeks in the hospital environment, and they start finding out their medication, things like that, and they go. Just nobody's in there for a long time. But when they're in there, they have different things for them to do, and self-counseling, psychology. One thing, they have like a room where they have like, movies playing, so they can kind of sit. What old people like the most, movies, are biographies. Because you're trying to write your biography. Who am I? What happened? What is life, right? So that's why this is everybody here. Yeah. So Radhika Raman and other people started becoming almost physically violent with me, and I had to start putting all this stuff together. There's so many lectures on nectar of instruction, scientific preaching. So finally, okay, yes, it's a fact. I'd like to do that. We're going to leave now. And so we're making 4 movies out of it. We're finishing those and trying to consolidate it. So that's what's, Prabhupada says. Rupa Goswami has given us many other books, such as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vidagdha Madhava, and Lalita Madhava. But nectar of instruction constitutes first instructions for neophyte devotees. So right there, in terms of Prabhupada's own statement, it is like, the essence, the concentrated thing. In England, they hired one advertising agency to look at help give them some idea about how to do Sankirtan. They asked for the literature, and they said, this is the best book you have for like giving a whole summary about who you are and what you're doing like that. So it's just naturally, it is. It's a very good, good book for that purpose. And then, like myself, to go through all this stuff that I've given, I started in the Houston Temple, the Mahavidyalaya, right after, you have seen me there, right after the morning Mangalarti, I would come out, and I would just go through a certain number of, paragraphs, and then record my comments, And eventually those were transcribed, edited, enhanced, and that's about, that's this much of the book. Yeah. And then we have appendices, which are they follow Prabhupada's appendices, like that, but they're expanded. This is Bhakti by Baba level. That's what we're aimed at. It's not Bhakti Shastri, it's Bhakti by Baba level, pretty much, Yeah. Bhakti by Baba level. Bhakti Shastri, you should be able to write a biography of Srila Prabhupada. It's kind of on the side, but yeah, you should, the biography in here, you should know that. You should, Bhakti by Baba level, you should know that. Okay, Bhakti Shastri. Bhakti by Baba, how much biography should you know? You should have read Lilamrita, right? You're ever well-wisher. Actually, no, for us, Bhakti Shastri, we're saying Bhakti by Baba, you should have read the whole thing, the long one like that. But yeah, you do different things in books. They're supplementary. They fit in. So our appendices then, they take Prabhupada's appendices and then put them up to Bhakti by Baba level. So this is, what we consider like the essence of the whole thing. And what I just told you is like, it's first instructions for neophyte devotees. It's small, it's manageable, Yeah, that's kind of why. Yeah, yeah. But other than that, then tomorrow, come tomorrow, we'll answer your question. They have these. When I was a child growing up, once a week they have a certain, cereal, and they always finish it off with something like, it's called a cliffhanger, where the guy's about to fall off the cliff or something like that. I was thinking, got it again. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe we're questions or comments. Want to hear a ghost story? Ghost stories. Yeah. The nice thing about, so basically what I've done today is like a preface. Okay. What is in the preface of a book? What do you find in the preface of a book? You're being educated scholars here, you have prefaces in your books. What's in the preface of the book? What's in the introduction? Well, the introduction obviously introduces the material. But the preface,
Yes, why?
huh?
Main depths of the why.
Yeah,
Book is there.
yeah. It tells what is the purpose of the book,
Qualifications of the reader. The qualifications of the reader.
the qualifications of the author, and what qualifications are expected of the reader. One more.
Purpose of the book.
Under what circumstances it was produced, like that. So the preface is supposed to do that. Oh, this book is for high school students who are studying calculus. It's expected the student will have already finished analytical geometry. I work at this high school. We discovered there were no good books for high school students on calculus. So this summer, with our students and fellow high school professors, we wrote this. Okay. Yeah. So the preface, what I've taught today is basically prefatory comments on Upadesamrita and commentary, and exactly your question, Because yeah, it's a part of the nectar of devotion is a summary of everything in a very extracted sense. And the Upadesamrita is, okay, this is a summary. And you find, in nectar of devotion, you can match up, how he's doing the process like that. Nectar of devotion is the complete science, bhakti yoga, is science. And then the demonstration, summary, complete science, and demonstration is Lalita Madhava and Vidagta Madhava. There Rupa Goswami shows you how to put it together. And if he puts all the mellows in there, and the feelings, and everyone's crying, do the drama properly. Yeah. It's very, very difficult to translate, those books. I can tell you, ¿cuántas estrellas hay en el cielo?
Infinitas.
No, son 50. Son 50.
Spanish.
Now, I'll tell you the joke in English. How many stars are there in the sky? 100. 100. The word for 100 in Spanish is 50. The word for without count is sin. So it's a joke in Spanish, but in English it makes no sense. So you try and translate, Vidagta Madhava into English. Here's Rupa Goswami using all the tricks he knows in terms of the Sanskrit language. You get 25 pages of footnotes explaining what's happening and stuff. You've got to learn Sanskrit to appreciate it. So yeah, this is a summary. Nectar of devotion is a what do you call it? Complete science. And then we have ways of doing it. And then the Lalita Madhava, Vidagta Madhava. Probably mentions that in several places. He mentions that sequence. He mentions that this is one nice line, just studying those books and stuff. And of course, I don't know, Bhakti Sarvabhauma. Bhakti Sarvabhauma was what level Sanskrit. Prabhupada expected to hear what level of Sanskrit did Prabhupada expect for this. And the appendices he has, what? Rules of Sandhi? No. What does he have in the appendix? Pronunciation guide.
Pronunciation.
He included a pronunciation guide. So he thought that all of his book, he thought a pronunciation guide and a glossary. Like that. So, yeah. So, there are different levels of Sanskrit development. Let's chant Hare Krishna a little bit. Prabhupada said, Kirtan, lecture, Kirtan, song. Okay. Song. This is a very, very nice song. Lord Chaitanya was traveling through the Jarikanda forest. And he started chanting the song. And all the animals started going crazy and dancing and singing. So you have to be very careful how you use this song. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Hey. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Rama, Rama, Krishna, 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 Hare. Krishna, 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 Bhagwan ki jai. There's one mantra at the time of death that will probably be the one that will save you. It will attract your mind away from everything else and save you. That mantra is Sarira Vijaya.
Yeah. His Holiness Hanuman Prashak Swami Maharaj ki Jai.